Hi everybody, I'm going to go through some of the modifications for pregnancy today. This can also come into play if you've got any pelvic or stomach issues or severe back issues. So it gives you a couple of modifications. So let's go through some of the basic Pilates exercises and the way they can be modified for floor or mat work or by using a chair or a ball. So here is our regular leg pull prone position. From here I'm usually up on my knees or on my toes. Now during pregnancy you're not going to be wanting to put that much pressure on the body. A safer option is your 4-point kneel here, and if you find it gets too much for your wrists, you can go up into your knuckles. This is a really safe and effective way to train the core without it being under undue pressure, as well as the back. The second option is using a stool or a chair. Make sure it's not on wheels and it's nice and stable. If you don't have a padded seat, feel free to put a cushion or some padding or another yoga mat on top. From here, rather than doing the box position, it allows you to add a little bit of extra length, depending on the height of your chair, of course. And you can gently move in and out of that position. What we want to make sure that we don't do is drop through that spine and back. So it's still a nice controlled movement here. Your next option is to use a fit ball, Swiss ball, or exercise ball. From here, it's the same idea, but you've got a little bit less stability. So make sure that your shoulders have good stability first. From here, you can roll out and back, or you could just do a static hold wherever you feel comfortable. The other option is that you can use your arms very gently to do small movements here to challenge your core. So let's now take a look at one of the other staples in Pilates, and it's the work on our back. Now, if you're pregnant, you're not going to be wanting to lie on your back. The same thing with people with vertigo. This can be another option for you for any of the curling or crunching movements. When pregnant, we don't want to put pressure onto our abdominal wall because it's expanded. If we put too much pressure on, there's pressure on the pelvic floor and also higher risk of that separation, of that abdominal separation. So what we want to do instead is hold neutral positions or positions where we're working through mobility more than muscular action. So option one is to have yourself boosted up on some cushions. You can support your head like so, and you can still gently move through that upper spine, but without too much work or too much pressure put on the abdominal wall. This will also allow for small movements through the feet or single lifts. If you're pregnant, the rule is to try to keep one leg on the floor at all times, so we've got that pelvic stability. There's a lot of relaxin through the body, and it can lead to that instability through the pelvis and can also lead to damage if you're not doing things correctly. Option two for abdominal work is to take a position on a seat, and you can do gentle rolls through either your lower spine or through the upper spine. So remember, the focus here is, even though those muscles are still working, it's more about the mobilizing through the joints, especially that lower back that can come into quite a big lumbar curve, or here for upper. And think of the upper as a really nice stretch through your upper back and neck, rather than a crunch through the center. You'll be restricted by the belly anyway. You can also do single leg lift movements from here. It engages the thighs a little bit more deeply, so you might like to lean back slightly and just take that weight back so it's easier for you. They don't have to be big movements, they can be very small. Option 3 is your Swiss ball, exercise ball, or fit ball. And with this, we've got a lot of options for doing core work. So if you're pregnant and there's core work or floor work, especially on the back, on the floor, in a Pilates class, you can sit up on your ball and do some nice gentle spinal releases and some nice deep and gentle movement-based practices to get the pelvis moving and all those muscles still activated but not under too much pressure. Circles are great for this. Really good for releasing the spine and releasing tension. Just keep that posture nice and upright and keep the breath flowing. Little rock forward and back are good as well. So you can still think about that same idea of the pelvic rocks and the pelvic clocks. And we can also round out through our spine into the C curve in this position. A little bit more challenging to lift the whole leg while you're on a Swiss ball, but you can definitely lift through the heels and shift through weighting your feet differently either side. Option for side lying position is to just use some cushions or a bolster or something comfortable so you don't feel under strain through that upper body. And it also gives you plenty of room around the belly. For arm work, it's going to allow nice range of motion here, and it still allows for your leg work. For Pilates exercises that work you like in a side bend position where you're lifted from the floor, if this starts to feel too uncomfortable for you, you can pop the cushions or a Pilates ball underneath your side so you've got a little bit more support through the exercises. So even if you lift, there's a nice soft landing down. A chair comes in handy for when you need a rest or also for where you need balance. When we're doing the standing Pilates exercises, like single leg balance, if you're feeling a little off balance or your hips just don't feel stable, use a chair, a nice solid one without wheels, that allows you to keep control of your position while you're working through the muscles. You can also face in this way, make sure that you're keeping that posture nice and upright though, and keep your knees soft. The other thing that a chair is really useful for is any of the pendulum style positions where you're leaning over. So it's going to take a little bit of weight for you and take the pressure off your core, off your hips and off your back. This is also handy for anybody who has back issues, core issues or pelvic floor issues.